Hey guys, and welcome back to my Ranger Guide Part 2. Now in the previous guide we addressed levels 1 to 55, which was all pre-awakening content. In this one we're going to look at post-awakening. The levels we're going to look at are 56 to 59, so right after you get your awakening and maybe after you're a little bit more experienced. The idea of the guide is to help you mostly with PvE, how to use your skills in PvE, the kind of rotations you can look at doing, as well as towards the end a little bit more about PvP, since we are looking at 58 and 59, which are generally better PvP levels. Especially when it comes to like tier 1 node wars and things like that. I'll also talk a little bit about gear progression. In the previous guide I showed very early level gear, so in this guide I'm going to show you where you should be upgrading that gear to, and also what you should be moving on to as you get more money and progress more. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the crystals as well, so you get an idea about what better crystals you can put in your gear, and finally also your food rotations. So I hope you guys enjoyed the guide. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to speed through a lot of this stuff just because otherwise the guide will be like 40 minutes long. So this is my level 56 Ranger alt that I was using for bosses. You can see all the skills you can get at level 56. You only get 2 flows though. The flows unlock at level 59 at the end one, which is regeneration, a very useful skill, but you do get rushing wind and vine knot, very powerful skills. I'm hovering over the skills here, but obviously you would probably look at your own skills. I would get everything except for Cold Blade. You don't need to worry about that. I actually can't remember if it auto unlocks or not, but you don't need Cold Blade. It's kind of like a meta PvP skill. It has like an extra stun you can do after like rushing wind, or sorry, breezy blade. And it also gives you some range, or your bow buffs, but it's not crazy useful for most people, certainly not for PvE. So I'm just going to show you basically how to use some of your skills, which you'll have looked at what the key combos are anyway, but I'll go over them. So Nature's Tremble is your most powerful skill, your longest cooldown nuke skill. So that's just shift and left mouse button. It's nice to have things knocked down before you use it in both PvE and PvP. You can actually start with that skill, Elven Rage, which does have a knockdown on it. So you could use Elven Rage to knock people down and then use your Nature's Tremble. That was the E, which is your Spirit Shackles. That's your grapple. You can't grapple scarecrows, obviously. That was just Vine Knot, which is a super armor skill that you can combo things out of, like Waltz of Wind or Rushing Wind. So this is just showing you how to use Breezy Blade out of the dash, as well as Rushing Wind. So Rushing Wind flows out of Breezy Blade. It's actually a super powerful skill. You can't spam it like you can Breezy Blade though. You can also use Rushing Wind out of your Vine Knot, which I also sometimes use in PvE. So yeah, I mean, a lot of those skills are spammable, Breezy Blade and Waltz of Wind being the main ones, and then you just use your nukes like Nature's Tremble, etc. when you can. So that's your awakening buff. Every class gets one. Ours is called Guardian. It's very, very cool. It allows you to run like this, which is very, very fast actually. You can actually sort of chase down Mooses and Mewas. But the main thing is, in PvE it gives you, well, I mean, it gives you this anyway, but I'm just saying with regards to how useful it is PvE wise, getting the extra attack speed you get from it is super useful. It's useful in PvE as well, obviously, but yeah, it's really nice to pop that. So you should pop it whenever you can. There's no penalty for popping it because it actually gives you a lot of mana when you do pop it, which is also useful. So use your awakening buff as much as possible in PvE. There's no reason not to. So that's just showing you actually real quick was how to get into Call from Sky from your dash. So basically when you're dashing, just press C and then space. And you can use Call from Sky. It's basically the charging kick version of Call from Sky that I showed you in the previous video, but it's very useful to get in the habit of learning how to do that. Your Q, Wailing Wind, is actually pretty useless until you get at level 56 at least, until you get like your 100%, because Wailing Wind, which is just Q, that's your 100% skill. It's actually quite powerful when against mobs when you have it, but otherwise it's not very useful. It does become a better PvE skill when you have the flow at level 57 called Tempest. But you can spam the Q if you wanted to. I don't know why you would, but just showing you. So yeah, it's Black Spirit, 100% skill, but it's a Q. So it's quite useful to clear packs with it, which I'll show you in a minute. But yeah, your most spammable stuff is basically just Waltz of the Wind, which is W, F, or S and F. And then you can basically go straight into Breezy Blade from that by pressing the left mouse button. And then if you want to add Rushing Wind, you can. Rushing Wind is the only thing with a cooldown in that combo in terms of not being able to use the skill at all. So So this is just showing you, there's Nature's Tremble. This Ranger does actually have my main Ranger gear, but you know, since Thousands AP was capped at 180, the extra AP on this Ranger doesn't actually help it. But it still should be better gear than a lot of you, especially if you're fresh level 56. You probably have more like 120 AP or 140. So here you can use Q on large packs to get your mana back from the bow. That's Blasting Gust, which is basically a cancel. So yeah, it's pretty nice to get your mana back that way. If the packs are really condensed, you can actually use your Awakening weapon and you just slash them side to side. That's also a PvE iframe, not a PvP, but PvE iframe. If you basically just A and left click like that, that's actually, mobs can't damage you. So it's quite useful as well, but it does give you your mana back, but you need quite high level of Camisylvan sword training to make it really truly effective. So but yeah, as you can see, it's a lot of Waltz of Wind, which is W and F, and then, you know, Breezy Blade, like so, and then that's obviously Rushing Wind at the end there. So, and that's the 100%. So that's just Q. Once you get 100%, will allow you to just basically clear packs pretty easily. And then here's your Nature's Tremble, which is a nuke skill with a long cooldown. So yeah, if you're ever like PvPing, you know, out in the world and someone's on the ground, use Nature's Tremble. So Elven Rage also does quite a bit of damage, but it gets its real damage at level 58 because you get a flow called Disillusion at level 58 that you basically add on to your Elven Rage, and it adds an extra little jump, and it does quite a lot of damage. So there I'm just showing you Guardian on the main pack of Thousands here. So begin with Nature's Tremble and just going ham. Now I can use Waltz of Wind. And you can see the attack speed is quite good, so yeah. So here's me showing you Tempest out of the queue. That's the level 57 flow. This is 58 flow for Elven Rage, which is Disillusion. And also Piercing Wind to level 58. Why this is a level 58 flow, I don't know. It should be level 56, but whatever. This is how you get into Shotgun easily as a flow from your bow. It's very useful to learn how to get back and forth from bow to swords. So yeah, Shotgun will add some supplemental damage in PvE. It's still pretty useful. The higher level you get, the more dominant your Awakening weapon will become for PvE, but Shotgun still has a role to play as extra supplemental damage. So this is just showing you all the ways you can flow into Shotgun from your Awakening. Obviously, if you want to go bow to... Oh, that's regeneration, by the way. If you want to go bow into your swords, just dash. The easiest way to do it. So this is just showing you queuing your mana back again. And this is the Awakening way to do it. But even though my Ranger is maxed with this, you know, because I can only hit like 2 at a time due to the range, I don't get that much mana back. So you need really like compact mobs to get your mana back using the Awakening swords. But you can see how much mana draining it is using your Awakening. So yeah, you really do run out of mana really fast. So what I did is I put a Razar bow here with 2 extraction crystals in, just to show you how much better it is in terms of getting your mana back with extraction. You can see my mana is actually going up and not down. So yeah, I mean, if you want, you could like keep your ultimate Razar when you go to Zarka for PvE purposes and eventually upgrade to a second Zarka, but it's kind of like, I don't know, out there. So this is just showing what to pick for weapons. So go for green Awakening weapon. Do not pick a blue one. Go green. It's much cheaper to get it to try, and you can just save that until you get to a Dandelion, which is the boss weapon. As for your bow, stick with an ultimate Razar. Do not go Laverto because it's just too expensive. And wait until you can get your own Zarka weapon, and that's the next time you upgrade. For your daggers, you can go steel or bronze. Steel is probably better for most PvE you'll be doing, like Thousands and Pirates. You don't really need accuracy that much against those sorts of mobs, so that's fine. And then when you upgrade for PvE wise, Kudum is actually really nice. It allows you to do extra PvE mob damage that it's hidden on the dagger. So Kudum is actually the best PvE weapon in the game. As for your armor, you want to go for your helmet. You want to go basically, well, actually all your armor is full heave basically until you get boss gear. So the most important piece of boss gear you can get is actually the Beg's Gloves first in terms of armor. The Beg's Gloves gives you lots of accuracy, which will help you hit things much easier and will also help you in PvE. The second most important is Muskins, and after that, Tree and Gaiath are the next two. Gaiath is probably the the last one you'd prefer to get, but Tree is probably going to be the last one you do actually get because Tree is much rarer than the others. So yeah, I'm just showing you there all the heave. You can use the quest chest instead of a Try Ultimate Heave armor chest. It's less DP, but it does give you the 5 accuracy, so it's really up to you. It's going to be a while though before you get Tree unless you're really, really lucky. As for your accessories, red coral rings are fine to start out with, you know, in the early stages. They still give you lots of AP and DP, really nice in that regard. And very, very cheap too to upgrade to at least the duo level. You could even go further if you wanted to. After that, I would actually skip Mark of Shadows and go for Crescents, unless Mark of Shadows are like dirt cheap because of a Lauren event or something. You could make a duo Crescent Ring though, it's the same as a Try Mark of Shadow until you can get an actual Try Crescent Ring yourself. As for your necklaces, Schultz is still a really good early game. You could upgrade it as far as duo or try, although you could go duo Serap as well. And then at that point, you probably want to start looking at Ogre Rings towards a Try Ogre Ring, which will be sort of your more end game necklace. As for your earrings, blue coral are very cheap and cost-effective earrings, so that's what I would recommend, going duo and then try on those. And then you would only swap your blue coral earrings out as soon as you're ready to do PvP. And in PvP, Ranger needs a lot of accuracy, so in order to get that accuracy, you kind of need to go for try red coral earrings, and they'll give you the accuracy you need, which is pretty cheap considering the AP loss. Compared to other things for a Try Red Coral Earring. So for your belt, Schultz belts are fine. You can go duo or try on your Schultz belt. And then when you're ready to swap, you can either go for Tree, and Tree is for accuracy. You have less AP, but it does give you accuracy. It's not a lot of accuracy compared to like the accuracy Red Coral Earring gives you, but you could do it if you wanted to. Alternatively, just make a Basilisk belt. You can make a duo and then a Try Bassi belt if you wanted, which is what I have. When we get Camisille Part 2, there will eventually be Tungrad belts, which will be new best in slot, but obviously that's way down the line, and this is intermediate guides, so yeah. Alchemy Stone you can put off, but eventually I would get a Sharp Alchemy Stone. I have Protection purely because I prefer it, but most people will want Sharp, as well as Sharp also gives you accuracy, which again Rangers need. So for your food, Magoria is basically the best Ranger food, but it's common on the marketplace because of an attendance reward right now, but that's not always going to be the case, so buy it up. Knight's Combat Rations is quite useful as well. And my third food buff that I rotate is Valencia. One of these should be swapped out though. You don't have to rotate 3 foods when you're doing thing. You can do smooth milk tea, I guess. King of Jungle Hamburg is something people pick as well for the crit, so but it might not work in PvP. It's kind of debated. Precision Crystal is your PvP crystal, by the way, for your bow. So I'm going to skip through these crystals pretty quickly, so you can just kind of look at the ideas that you can have. Usually I start with the most expensive one, and then I go down to the cheaper ones. So yeah, I skip through some of these. Some of these are not, you know, cheap or cost effective, and you don't want to put expensive crystals on if you're gonna die, but the idea is generally to try and max attack speed and then crit and also movement speed, and you do that with a combination of crystals and your gear as well as your food buffs. So that's the kind of thing you need to think about when you look at crystals. So these are just some general ideas of what you can pick in order to max those things out. So yeah, that's what you should aim for anyway, and just don't put expensive crystals on though if you're gonna go ham on bosses and things and die. So that's just to show you a basic combo: Grapple, Nature's Tremble, Regeneration. That's your Elven Rage, that'll CC someone. That's Breezy Blade, it adds a stun. That's Grapple again, and then that's Grapple into Vine Knot plus your Rushing Wind. So if you want to block that knockdown from like Elven Rage, for example, you can use your weapon swap, you can use your Q for frontal blocks. Vine Knot is actually a full super armor. And if you use Elven Rage after another Ranger has just used it, if you time it right, you actually knock them down even though you used it after them. Regeneration also has a frontal block. And you can use your dash at the right time, and that'll also protect you as an iframe. But if you do it too much like that, you get knocked down because it's on cooldown as the iframe. So this is Pinpoint Blasting Gust, which is a cancel, and Blasting Gust has a knockdown, so it allows you to instantly cast Blasting Gust without a wind-up. Again, that's the weapon swap, so it's just side to side with C. So that's Disillusion. I wouldn't use the Elven Rage flow though in PvP, because rarely will you ever knock anyone down with Elven Rage because they'll have super armor. And it just keeps you stationary for too long. The same goes for the Q in Tempest. I don't really use my Q unless it's 100%. That's showing you how to quickly go into your bow form. So it's just side and C and then swap straight into Will o' the Wind and Shotgun. So that was to show you Call from Sky protecting me from the knockdown there. And then you should always weapon swap after a Call from Sky as much as you can. You can see that the block actually lasts quite a long time after swapping. So there it is again as another example. You can see the little shield icon. If you land that correctly, you can, sort of get on top of a stationary target and immediately grapple them. But the same thing can be done to you, so you have to be careful if you do it that way. So that's just showing you quickly shotgun damage when someone is standing up, but then also as a comparison, using your Guardian spell, so you can see the increased attack speed as well. It does give other things like added evasion, which is also really nice. So make sure you utilize your Q properly when you are doing PvP. So you can see just how quick all the sort of moves are. Also, out of Call from Sky, you can use Evasive Explosive Shot, which gives you a stun on an opponent if you land it off of cooldown, as well as it gives you an iframe. So that concludes part 2 of the guide. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope that you found it helpful. If you have any further questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below, and I will try to get to them as soon as possible. But if not, I will hopefully see you guys on part 3, which will be the much more advanced PvP stuff for Ranger. Thanks, guys.